Everybody, my name's Lucas Underwood. I own L&N Performance in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. I have been in business since 2007 and started as a performance shop and have slowly moved to a full-blown repair shop. A few years back, I decided, hey, this isn't for me. I'm not gonna do this anymore. It's too stressful. I'm not making any money. Why am I doing this? So I went to a training event and ended up in some management classes. Since then, I've been in a lot of Cecil's management classes, but I went from making $14,000 a month in the same size shop to $125,000 with just a little bit of training and a little bit of knowledge. In that, I joined a group called ASOG. It's called the Auto Shop Owners Group of Facebook. We'd love to invite any of you that are shop owners here to join. It's all about community and growing and helping shop owners all over the country. Boyd, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Boyd Rich from AutoWorks, Maine. I have a European specialty shop in coastal Maine. Been in business for 36 years, and like to be part of the industry. Been doing it all my life, and continue to do it for a lot longer.
Very good. Seth, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Seth Thorson, Eurotech Auto Repair. We have 3, soon to be 4 locations in the Minneapolis area. I also own LMV Bavarian, where we do BMW tech support and training. Justin's one of my instructors. He's up there. You'll get to see him teach this weekend. So been involved in industry for a long time, involved in training, involved in research and development. I'm on the NASTF board, so I work with the OEMs for you guys to make sure we have access to information. So quite involved in a lot of aspects of the industry.
Very cool. Gee, I don't know that we even have to introduce you, but we're going to let you introduce yourself.
I'm Pete Trulio. Most people know me. I am an instructor. I've been with my own company, ITTC, since 1991, providing training all over the country, over in Europe and in Asia and Australia. So I've done that. I still run a shop. I've had 5 repair shops I ran at one time. I'm on shop number 12. I got no hair in my head from it. So yeah, I like being involved in the industry, also involved with NASTF since its inception. And you know, it's about helping people. I think we got to pull the industry together. Events like this, where everyone comes together and has a common goal in making everyone better, is what I enjoy.
Absolutely. Tony, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tony Callis, been with WorldPac and SSF training for about 17 years, and grew up in a shop. My father had a Porsche shop when I was born in Texas. Was a factory race team for Porsche, and I ran Le Mans a bunch of times and won Le Mans, and I just decided to take on a new effort the other day. I was asked by a guy that started TripAdvisors to run 2 brand new Supers for him. It's going to be a new thing for me after all these years of Porsches, but I'm finding it to be pretty interesting. I've got a shop in Chicago and one in Los Angeles of 30 years, and that's pretty good.
Very good, very good. Well, I guess we can sit down here. And you know, I'm going to go off topic here a little bit. And G and Seth, this is important to y'all. NASTF, man, that's really important for us.
Super important.
And I don't think a lot of folks, you know, when we talk in the group and we talk amongst the crowd, you find out a lot of people don't know much about NASTF. They don't know much about the VSP. How important is that going to be in the future of our industry? G, I'll start with you.
Well, it's been important for years. Unfortunately, a lot of techs don't sign up. It's free to sign up on the NASTF site. If you want to become a VSP or a locksmith LSD license, LSID license, you know, it's not that hard to go through the process. It's roughly, I think now, about $450. But you're going to need that. If you don't have that license, think about this. If you don't have the ability to program this car because of security issues, you're going to have a problem. You send that car out, you're going to run into a problem with that customer, right? If they see their vehicle at a dealer and the dealer's going to put you on a back burner, you definitely need to sign up. I mean, I've been touting this for years now. I still come across, I'd say most technicians or shop owners have not signed up. And after you sign up, if you work on Volkswagen Audis like I do and Seth, and I'm sure most of us here, you're going to need to also get a license from Volkswagen Audi. It's $100, and I think it's a one-time shot. It used to be $100 a year, but one-time shot. So it's important to have those credentials so you can fully get that vehicle back running. Just think about all the lockouts on a vehicle, right? You change one module, you're going to go, hey, who's on the bus? It locks you out, you're in trouble. So super important to do that.
Absolutely. Seth, we're going to see a point when we have to be VSP credentialed to work on a car?
I think it's probably coming. Obviously, you were at ETI, I was at ETI. The connected car is coming more and more, over-the-air updates. The manufacturers aren't trying to lock us out, but they do want to protect their car from hacking and outside interference. So they are going to require some kind of secure login, and that's what NASTF's working with them, is to log into the gateway to open the rest of the car up. There are some states with some of this that have turned off Wi-Fi in their cars because of some security issues. So we're going to see more and more of it. That's probably our best gateway as independents, to be able to gain access through the gateway module into the rest of the car. And I know that there is an initiative with ETI for scan tool manufacturers to allow you to use your VSP login to get into the scan tool, to open up the car, to be able to talk to it. So I think you're going to see a lot more secure gateways and reasons to be involved with them, especially with keys and access codes. They're really who's fighting the battle. I know I've been sitting in every single one of those meetings with the Mercedes issue, and that has been a long, long, long battle. I'm sure Marty's very aware of that. But that's been a long battle with NASTF and fighting Mercedes to do the right thing. NASTF has never gone as far as they ever have. Usually we contact the manufacturer and they say, okay, we're sorry. Well, Mercedes was not playing ball, and we went as far as we ever have as a NASTF group into the MOA and writing letters and going really, really deep into that. So, obviously that's a time commitment, because none of the board members on NASTF are paid. So we're all volunteers. It's a lot of work to go through it, but we're trying to really work to better the industry with that board and what we're doing for techs.
I only had one other thing there. So gateway module, if you work, I know you're not domestic guys, but Chrysler had that issue first, right? And you were locked out unless you went to, a website to sign up your tools, your guys, auto auth, right? But now what did Nissan do? Nissan, even if you have the factory tool, well, they want to double check you now all of a sudden. They're going to start that. Every manufacturer is going to do some sort of lockout. They may not all be involved with auto auth. So that means you may be paying $100 here or $75 there. We need to stick together. It's important to sign up for NASTF. Super important.
So
your voice means something.
Curious, audience participation. Who is VSP credentialed in the room? So we got a few, right? It's better than it was a few years ago. Who's heard of NASTF? That says a lot, guys. You got to get out and get signed up. So on to the actual topic for tonight. Boyd, I hear you work on some electric cars. Is that correct?
Well, we do some things to the electric cars. Typically right now they're new enough that they're not braking. We do work on some of the historical, I guess I could say now, electric cars, of the BMW realm and some of the Mercedes realm, as well as the hybrids that have been around for a number of years. But the strictly EV thing it's right around the corner, and we're in the process of judging how that's going to work. One of the key things from a shop owner's standpoint is, is it going to work for the shop? So when we dig into this, we prepare, we buy all the safety equipment, we train ourselves, and then we see how the customers react to what we do, and then we step in as we see the need and that we can be profitable in doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you bring up a good point, Seth. I'm curious, when are we going to start seeing these vehicles in our shops, the new EVs, if you will? We've seen hybrids for years. When are we going to see these electric vehicles begin to come out of warranty? I hear from a lot of shop owners who say, I'm never going to see that. It's not going to be realistic. When are we going to see these cars in our shops?
Well, we're seeing them currently. I ran a report. We did about $75,000 of Tesla work in the first quarter. Brandon, who's back there standing up, he's worked on more than a few. Some bus issues, door handle issues, drive unit issues, doors that was a window dropped down on its own, right? Window dropping down on its own. We have, Ben is one of my other techs, had one dumping coolant all over, right? We had two Model X's at two different shops, dumping coolant all over the place. just dropping cool. I think they took BMW's plastic supplier and they put it in Tesla. It's the same markings. I'm pretty sure that BMW said, "Oh, here Tesla, you can use our plastic manufacturer." We know that will hold together perfectly well.
We don't want to be alone in the leak area. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, and we've had some leaking oil, axle seals leaking oil. So I mean, the service opportunities are there. And and we're proof of concept of it. We're just getting our toe wet and doing more. But we're having pretty good success even in this first quarter, and I haven't run the start of the second quarter numbers on those cars yet. But
Very cool. Tony, you had something to say?
Well, yeah, it's not, that's definitely an area, but what we're finding is even in the interim stage of the lithium iron battery, where I have it in a race car at COTA in Austin, same battery that's now in this bloody Supra, and that's in every 17, 19, 20 Porsche, depending on the platform, and you can't capacitance test or conductance test this battery like you do some of the older ones. You definitely are not going to load test it, even though we all know what a starter does. But yes, electric cars, definitely a stage we need to be looking at and training for and getting ready for when comes in, mostly knowing how to turn off the power to the car.
Yep.
But I don't want us to forget about what we're dealing with in most of these cars now, where when you get a lithium iron battery, how do you test it? What do you do? And because without a factory tester, you're gonna be out of luck.
Yep. That's a valid point. That's a valid point. And so, G, what do you see? Are you seeing more of these cars in repair shops all over the country already?
We see quite a few of them, but I'm going to say that most problems are still hybrid problems. Now, even though a lot of people think there's such a big difference between a hybrid vehicle and a full electric, the only difference is the ICE. You got a motor generator, you got a converter, you got an inverter, and you have to know what they do. Okay, and that's the biggie. So you're gonna see failures, maybe your 12-volt battery don't charge up. Well, that's gonna be a converter problem most of the time. But you need to have the right equipment, the right training to actually figure that out. And it's the wave of the future. I mean, with this current administration, they're pushing this big time. So, whether the gas motor goes bye-bye, which I don't think it will, but I think you're gonna see a lot more electric vehicles in the very near future. I mean, look at Ford Motor Company, split from gas and diesel to a separate company with electric. You have Rivian, you have all, Tesla been out there for a while. More and more of these things are coming out. GM has put a bunch of money in all EV vehicles. So you're gonna see them. And lithium batteries, we have seen failures with those, some Hyundais, some General Motors. So some of those batteries are a problem, or even their latest Chevy Bolt. I teach for the New York City Police Department, New York City MTA. We've had a bunch of problems where they couldn't even charge those vehicles inside. They had to cut the charging rate down because they were afraid the batteries would catch fire. And every one of those battery packs had to get swapped out. They're still trying to play catch up on them from 2017 right to 22 model year. They're still doing a swap out. So, think about that. It's out there.
Yeah.
And you have to be on your game. If you don't update, you'll evaporate. And that's a big thing out there. You got to stay up on every single new thing coming out.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I was talking to some shop owners the other day. We're talking about calibration in ADAS, and I was saying, hey, that car needs a calibration. You just did an alignment. Oh, no, that's not coming into our shop yet. No, it's there. You need to be thinking about it now, and you need to be looking at service information. Service information is a big part of this. Doing your research first.
You bet.
Don't get into the car and then do your research.
It's something simple, even doing a condenser, right? You take it apart. Well, that grill may have sensors in there for the ADAS system. And you just took it off. I put everything back perfect. It ain't gonna be perfect.
Yep.
You're gonna need the right equipment to do it. And service information, like you said, I have a little saying, RTFI, read the frickin' info.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, you're gonna have a huge problem.
Absolutely. That comes back to you, Voight. You mentioned safety. When you're talking about safety in the shop, do you have a safety protocol for the electric vehicles you work on or the hybrid vehicles you work on?
Well, obviously, we initially did research on what the OSHA equipment requirements are, and some of this stuff is quite expensive. We've got a sticker shock. We went and bought the rescue hook that you need. These things are, hundreds and thousands of dollars, not a few dollars, and the stuff needs maintenance. The equipment it is all dated and has service requirements for itself. So education is the first thing, to know what you need, then to acquire what you need, then to keep what you need up to date when it comes to the safety equipment.
Absolutely. So at ETI, I kept looking over and I would see Seth's eyes roll when someone would say something about EV. Seth, you know, one of the things that I saw that you kind of had a reaction to was the safety barricades around the car and the safety perimeter tell us why you had that reaction.
Well, it just depends on what you're doing. Not everything requires all that equipment. Most of the work you're going to do on that car is on the 12-volt system, right? The DC-DC converter converts the high voltage to the 12-volt system that we're all familiar with. Most of the work's on the 12-volt system. Even the high voltage system, pulling a drive unit down, doing some of your major service doesn't require the class 3 gloves. It doesn't require the suit. It doesn't require blocking the car off, right? If you're servicing the battery pack, yes, it does. But most of your operations do not require the full-on safety suits and everything like that. So a lot of the things you do on the car aren't going to require that. Should you block off the car, lock away the safety? If you're doing certain operations of the car, absolutely. But most of your operations don't involve that.
Absolutely. G, you know.
Well, you know, there are certain things you need in a shop, like the rescue hook, which is probably about $500-600 in that range, that does need to be checked. You need that according to OSHA. And God forbid someone's getting electrocuted. If you don't have that type of equipment, which they may be dead already, by the way, DC voltage can pull you in. It'd be like going to the chiropractor and them taking that stim machine and zapping you up. The gloves every 6 months, you know, like my guys have 2 pairs, one goes out, one stays in. Covers, and you'd be surprised sometimes, a glove can go bad if you're not checking it. We had some just come back recently that failed. They looked perfect. And if you do the roll-up game, oh, it looks great. You got to send them out and make sure.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
right equipment is important.
Well, and it's not all, I mean, definitely human life is priority one. We have a chain of command at the shop where the foreman makes sure that he's on top of this. There are other things that happen. I mean, if you pull an oil filter off too quickly on a Porsche, you can ruin a $25,000 e-machine. So yes, we're concerned about human life, and that's priority one, especially in Los Angeles, where there's a lawyer on every corner. Not that I'm not worried about the person. I'm definitely worried about the person.
Might be more than one on every corner.
Right, that's true. So, but what blows my mind is the future of these cars. I was talking to an engineer. I do a lot of stuff in Germany, and I can't say who or what, but the engineer's looking at me and he goes, you know what? You're not going to believe this, but machine learning is taking over. And he looks, I'm like, yeah, okay, what? How bad can it be? And he goes, imagine you've got a dark spot up in the road. Is it water? Is it a hole? Is it shade? And he goes, the cars are learning and we don't know how. No. And that's what blew my mind when he starts talking about how smart and intelligent these cars are getting. Yes, we can all talk about the electric cars, but there's a whole nother facet to this industry, what's happening.
Yeah, I sat in an Ian Levy class one time years ago, and he began talking about technology that was coming, and I watched technicians shut the book and say, if that's what's coming, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not doing this, you know?
It's singularity's coming.
Seth, question for you, and this kind of applies to me because I'm building a shop right now. How important is charging the EV when it comes to the repair service? Why wouldn't the client just charge it at home? And do we have to have special charging equipment? And I bring that up because A, I'm building a new shop and it became imperative to know this, and B, there's a lot of aftermarket tooling and such coming up for that, and you had some serious input on that a while back.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, you can put a charger out front, and that's what a lot of shops think are going to attract EVs. The reality is the charger, nobody's going to sit in your parking lot for 4 hours and charge their car. It's not going to happen. Nobody likes you that much, I hate to tell you.
Yeah. They can go.
You know, they're not going to sit there for 4 hours and charge their car. Now, should you charge a customer's car? Yeah, because if they run it down or if the car sits, they have vampire and phantom drain, you can lose 20, 30 miles a day. But that charger can be out back, that charger can be in a bay and charge it overnight. Realistically, a 1450 welding outlet and a $400 level 2 adapter from Amazon will charge 90% of your customers' cars in a very efficient manner. all these expensive chargers to put on the outside of the wall really aren't going to drive EV traffic to you. They're not going to help. You're probably going to put them in a prime parking spot. If you want to use them for a shuttle car, we have some that are in good spots in some of my locations because we have a shuttle car that's electric, so we can plug it right in when we come back from runs. But otherwise, you don't want your customers probably parking there on a regular basis. It's not that advantageous. Most of our charging is across the parking lot or in the back of our buildings. We'll top cars off after repairs, but you can get away as easy as a 1450 outlet on the back side of your building, plug a charger in, top the customer's car off before they pick up. It's pretty simple.
It's got level 1, level 2, level 3. So 110, 120 voltage, 240 voltage, and then a DC charger. That is going to be your fastest way to charge a vehicle. But that's money. Now in New York State, well, we get a bunch of freebie crap. And that freebie stuff comes from a grant. So you can get a charger put in if you'd like. But like Seth said, if you put it up front, it's not going to bring you business. You're just going to get someone there taking a parking spot to charge your vehicle up. So level 2 is more than enough to have, in my opinion.
And
But it's not as obvious, though, as it seems. You think, oh, if I just use a 110 outlet with this cord, I can charge my car, it'll be slower. No, you'll burn up the house with a Porsche, the Taycan.
Yeah,
You
gotta be-
better not use a 110 outlet. And my day, what I'm waiting for, I grew up out in the country in Texas, 60 miles outside of Houston, 10 miles outside of that town. Wait till this all ice is going away, and you've got that farmer out in Montana with his, F-350, and it's frozen, and the battery's dead. I'm sorry.
But a lot of these chargers, another step on the chargers, there's different current limit, even on your 110s.
Yeah,
Whether
110's
it puts
usually
3
15
amps
amps.
or whatever.
Yes.
It's all from your controls inside or from the unit. So you can limit stuff from happening.
So G, do you think we have the infrastructure for it? Do you think
Hell
we
no.
have the infrastructure for EV?
No, California will be in the dark. Sorry to say that. Newsom will come out to try to get you. No, we don't have, I've been on SAE things where we don't have the infrastructure to put all these electric cars out there. If everyone starts charging these things up, how in the world are you going to keep the lights on in buildings and homes?
We have problems as it is.
Yeah, we have to, have a better source of energy, better infrastructure for these charging things,
Absolutely, absolutely. Boy.
From the business standpoint, one of the things I've been studying a lot is adoption and satisfaction. And what G had mentioned earlier, these EVs are coming out under a whole different method. The dealers are starting their own separate companies for this. Tesla is a completely different model than anything we've ever seen. So we have to approach things in a whole different way than we ever have. And that is still, the jury is out on that and how that's going to work. And from this is being somewhat forced on us. It's being forced on the manufacturers. I mean, look at it this way. The manufacturers, how many billions of dollars are they going to give up on equipment to build ICE engines? They don't want to give up on that equipment. They still have payments on it. So this is being forced on us, and how is that level of satisfaction and adoption, and how long are people going to drive these? That has a lot to do with how they're going to end up in our shop, because when they're new, they're not in our shop except for tires and alignments. As they age, and if people are holding on to these things, that's when we have to look in that crystal ball. Right. To try and determine how that's going to happen as we make a major investment in our shops and our infrastructure and chargers and tooling to take care of this. And then it gets back to the access thing. These cars, it used to be our problem was access to information. Now you can have the information, but it's access to the car to actually use the information or do anything with it.
Yep, absolutely. So you're a really forward-thinking shop owner, right? And you're at the front of the market. What do you say to the shop that says, I'm not going to see EVs, I'm not ever going to see that here, or I'm not going to see ADAS in my shop? What do you say to that shop owner? How have you prepared, and what would your message be to somebody who says that? A lot of shop owners don't believe it's coming for them.
Well, the first question I'd ask is, what do you see in the future of your shop? And how long is that future going to be, and the people in it, and your customer base? So that's an individual question. My shop, I built it from scratch through 36 years now, and I want to see that go on for that many more. And it's highly likely that what it's been doing for the last 36 years, it may not be doing for the next 36, right, even beyond my ownership.
Right, absolutely. And that's
I hate in my classes hearing from guys, I mean, I'm 60, and I hate hearing, well, excuse me, I'm about to retire, it doesn't matter. Well, there are future generations, and we need to train those future generations, and they need to understand what's happening. It's not all about you. And I hear it over the last at least 15 years from guys, and my father was that way. You know, well, I don't need that. Well, okay, you're gonna step off the moving escalator, and once you get back on, there's gonna be a big space that you've lost.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, a big thing that you said that comes up, Seth and I talked about a while back, which was it a pest analysis?
Yep.
And to really know what's coming. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I run them on our company, political, economic, social, and technology. Just like a SWOT analysis, we run a pest and just see what the political climate comes with, what economic, what socially, what technology will change, and run a threat and assessment on it. Daniel's seen back there in the back of the room, I'm gonna pick on him a little bit, not really, but he's my COO. We definitely look at political environment stuff. We look at, you know, we don't choose a side, we simply look at what that and how that affects our business and what we do with our teams. So he's really good at looking at that with me, and we look at these things and say, you know, how fast will this drive adoption? If one side continues to win elections, how fast will EVs come? If another side, will they try and slow it down? What does that do to our market? We're not trying to choose a side in this, but we're trying to prepare our company, because that's your job as owners of your companies, is to maximize your company's potential and maximize your staying potential. And that means understanding both sides of whatever's going on in the world and making sure you make the appropriate moves to ensure viability of your business.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which way you agree with what political side. The reality is this stuff is coming. And it may come at a faster pace, you know, if one side wins or not, but it's here to stay. It's not going bye-bye.
Yep.
So, you know, I think people preparing for it is a major thing.
Absolutely. And so, Tony, when we're talking about tooling up for this, you know, and I think we're seeing a shift, right? Because we're getting to the point that it's more about the shop tooling up and the shop equipment. It's not so much about the technician tooling up. But say a technician decides, hey, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna start working on EV. What do we need to have? What are the base purchases that we need to be thinking about?
This is a huge subject for this weekend, because I've found over the number of years that people moved to clone devices. And I feel, and I've seen, that bugs are being put into cars. And I don't mean man-made bugs. I'm talking about drops of data, things like that. And just incorrect data, old data is a big one. And people can't, I mean, coming from the Porsche end, people can't spend the money on a factory tool that's maybe, you know, it's going up to 20-something thousand. That's not the big deal. It's the 20,000 of intellectual property a year. And that's where Autoland, iSCAN, I mean, this is where this will help us, this will save us as independent shops. So I've always considered myself kind of a tool whore, and I always get everything that Porsche has and everything that's out there, and I want the latest and greatest. Unfortunately, there's a lot of supersessions and tools that are no longer useful, but I'm sticking my hat with these guys and instead of Porsche. I grew up like, oh, Porsche, you know, oh, this or that, but you know what, in the end, they don't care about us, and that's where NASTF, I mean, Lincoln started it, the lobbying procedure. And we can't lobby alone. I mean, I go to Sacramento and I try to lobby, but in the end, you need NASTF and a special interest group or somebody large to go and speak for you. And I'm getting off subject about the tools, but this is what we're looking at. This is my future.
Very good, very good. G, say you're equipping a shop. You're gonna start working on EVs tomorrow. What are you buying?
Factory tools are definitely a must. You know, having Autoland as well, I had a problem with, I didn't have an ICOM. And there was another company, we won't mention their name, but it didn't work with ISTA. And using their pod worked really well, going right through, connecting to it. And I was able to get out that active hybrid and get that battery going. So having the right equipment, picking it is a biggie. And, you know, I think someone mentioned this before, I don't know if it was Tony, whatever, selecting how many car lines you're gonna be on, because it's gonna cost quite a bit of money down the road. And one other tool I would say you definitely need is a lift table for batteries.
Okay.
because that's a biggie. You break one of these batteries that are 20 plus thou,
Yeah.
you're gonna, people are trying to use tranny jacks with straps. It's like, come on,
Right.
get in the real world.
I saw Toyota recommend a forklift. And the question was, will you sell forklifts too? Is this part of the deal? But no, it's not.
Yeah, buy a Toyota forklift.
Seth, you were probably the first person I ever saw use Tesla Toolbox, right? And
Yep.
that I know of, you were the first person in our little world that accessed it and began to use it. Tell us a little bit about what you're tooling up with in your shop right now.
Yeah, so we're in the process. Right now, Toolbox is used pretty much exclusively by me to help our guys when they need help. But we are actually, we've done enough R&D, we've done enough testing. We made an announcement at our last leadership meeting 2 nights ago that we're rolling it out to the rest of the team. So all my foremen are getting a Zoom meeting. We're going to teach them how to use Toolbox and roll out cables and everything to all our stores. It becomes incredibly important because these cars are so connected that the customer can literally spy on everything in your shop, and the cameras are so good that 24/7 I can pull up my car and I can see a license plate of the car behind me in the airport. They can see work orders at your screen. They can see cars in your shop. They can see everything. So we're rolling out Toolbox to our techs just to even get the cars into what we call service mode and let them block out the camera. The customer's app then shows service. They can't see the state of charge of the car. My service or my sales guys aren't here today, but even my techs, how many of you guys hear the complaint from the customer, hey, plug my car in because the battery's getting low, right? They'll call and yell at us to plug their car in. And so the service mode allows that to be reduced so they don't call and complain about things that really doesn't affect their car, but they believe it does. But Toolbox is available. Tesla's like $333 a month, or I think it's like $3,600 a year. We have a subscription. It works great. There are some funny things. It is more DOS-based command. It's a web server, and you have to know what the command is. So you hook up to the car, it says connected, and then there's just a blank command line. And you have to know, hey, I want service mode, or I want bleed mode, or I want to do RCMA mode to do the rear caliper activation mode. You have to know what commands you want and know what to type in to get the result you want. It's a big DOS-based prompt. It's incredibly powerful, but there's not a lot of data. The car, frankly, with Tesla is a scan tool. Once it's in service mode, you're doing most of your scan tool functions on the car. You need to recalibrate the steering angle sensor after an alignment. It's done on the touchscreen on the car. You go calibrate service angle. You need to look at alerts and fault code. It's done on the screen. You need to look at CAN data. It's done on the car screen. Toolbox effectively puts the car into the scan tool mode. And then you can do most your data acquisition and most of your reading and live data and everything is actually in the vehicle itself. And if you have a software reflash, right? All you do is you send a service command, you send service redeploy, the mothership downloads the file to the car and you hit update on the car and the car updates itself and all the modules and away you go. So, but you have to know that you need the command service redeploy and right. So there's a learning curve to the cars.
Absolutely. What tooling have you got in your shop that stands out to you as required?
Well, again, factory tools, and as G mentioned, working on a limited number of car lines, but having yourself completely capable of those car lines, not taking on something that you're unfamiliar with. That's a huge thing. The customer's not going to like you, the techs aren't going to like you, your service advisors aren't going to like you, so you're not going to be a winner. So I make sure, again, that we're prepared before we take on something, and we have Teslas in the shop every week. There's usually one there every day. Currently, we're not doing a lot of heavy work on them yet, and that's what we're gauging on how that's going to come to, and how are the manufacturers going to stand behind the product.
Right, absolutely. So Voight, I'll stay with you. I've got a question for you, training and certification. Are there classes you're sending your guys to now? Do you have certifications for your guys in EV? Do you think that's important? What are you doing right now as far as education for your guys?
A number of my guys have come from the dealership network and through the Volkswagen Audi Porsche system in particular and the BMW network, where they have received the factory EV training. and acquired the safety equipment they were required to have, as well as the shop having it. So I've been lucky in that regard. We do have a lot of the manuals. We do self-training. We do go to classes. STX had a bunch of different classes at their event earlier this spring. So as the training comes available, there's not a lot available yet. Right. So you kind of got to find it on your own. But I would, like G says and everyone else has said here, this stuff is coming. We don't know if it's going to be everything, but it's going to be enough percentage of everything that we're going to have to deal with it.
One thing I wanted to add about a tool, one of the things I'm beta testing, Mercedes and Ford are using this thing that looks like a smoke machine for the batteries.
I've seen that.
Battery leaks are a major problem, and GM has actually approved Bullseye from
Really?
ATS. Yeah, they got
That's
approval
pretty cool.
because the leaks are a major problem. You get a leak in that battery case, and they're selling these plugs about $300-400 that you're testing through the plug. So this beta stuff I'm using uses air. It looks like a smoke machine, but it's not. It filters the air to go in there and actually see what the leak level is. And if it's out of their specification, a battery got to come down.
That's
And
pretty
it's the
crazy.
pouch batteries, or?
Just all of them. Any lithium now, they're all worried about leaks in the cases. And some of them, of course, if they've been banged around or whatever, you can have a problem.
Tesla's got a problem with their early batteries that they use a really thin piece of sheet metal, and it sits on top, and the salt gets on it, it rusts, and it blows the pyro fuse, and it's on top of the battery pack.
So if you're in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Not like the rest of the people.
I'm almost terrified to ask you the training question. I've sent you text messages about training classes and got the response, so I'm almost afraid it's going to be days of Seth's response about training classes. Tell me, explain a little bit about what we've talked about. We've had a lot of conversations on, is the training adequate? Is the training sufficient? Is the training fear-mongering?
Sure. Well, right now it's early, and even Caroline, who's a friend of mine, does a class on EV, and she talks about how early it is. And the problem is so many people are rushing training to the market, but the training's not right, or it's not done, or it's done in a half-assed manner, and it's just too early for some of this. The other thing is we don't have a good industry standard for safety. So again, my fear even doing training is, right, somebody goes and hurts themselves on the car and they didn't listen to the safety talk. There's some coming. Weber State here in Utah has an online training program that's pretty good. And it's, we got to have some kind of requirement, because I don't want to do basic EV safety training. I want to do advanced diagnostic on the car and what we do on the cars. But we need to have a base level of safety training, and that's not there yet. And these cars are so new that, as Voight said, he's on the cutting edge. Some of you guys are on the cutting edge. The cars aren't coming in the work bay quite enough to have the proper trainings, have everything done. Anything that's out there right now is very, very early. Anything us as shops are doing on the cutting edge is really research and development. Frankly, most of the work we've done on the cars has been at almost no profit because of the parts issues from Tesla, because of some of the things going on. You're doing it because you're wanting to get an edge and learn, and I can write a lot of this stuff off as R&D credit for my training and tech support business. But right now, it's not super profitable, number one. Number two, it's really, really, really early to see what's happening and how this stuff's really going to shake out.
Absolutely.
Part of my educational process was to buy and drive an EV.
Right.
So I've been driving a Tesla now for 2 years and going on 50,000 miles and doing my best to try and break it. And I'm having a very hard time breaking it. And I'm usually pretty good at breaking things, as some of my guys in my shop can tell you. So this is, the kind of thing like, how are these things going to enter our shop, and at what level are they going to enter it?
Absolutely. G, you're a big training advocate.
Yeah,
Tell us what you think.
I've been doing this training for years in the aftermarket. Safety is the important part. People want to just skip over it. There are things that you need. I'll kind of disagree with you, somewhat. You have the right gloves, the right training equipment, and if you understand each component in the vehicle and how to power down the vehicle, then you could safely work on this vehicle. So there's really not a big difference. There's always going to be different components, just like on a Porsche or a BMW, and we know sometimes some of the same companies make the parts. It may be on a Toyota, for argument's sake, or a GM.
Right.
You just have to know how things operate, and have your stuff in place. You need a game plan. No team ever goes out to play a game to lose, right? They look at the stuff, they practice, they know what moves they're gonna make. And I've been doing my classes for years, not only, you know, I taught the US Marines in Okinawa, Japan, I've had the Navy, I've done a bunch of people, and they've been successful at diagnosing and fixing these cars. It's not hard if you have a plan, but you need the steps. Safety, like some guys come in and go, I don't care about safety. But dude, I don't do any class, whether it's, you know, a seminar or a webinar, I have to put safety in to cover my butt.
Absolutely.
And if they don't follow, well, that's their problem.
I'm not disagreeing on safety. I'm saying there needs to be something, there needs to be a universal recognized EV safety certificate.
But
So
see,
you can
that
prove
always
that you've
runs
done it.
into muck, you
Yep.
know?
Well, that's, yeah.
You have stuff like ATMC, and nothing wrong with ATMC, to, you know, make a program supposedly certified, or if someone goes through and takes the L3, and I'm one of about 15 or 16 people that wrote L3 questions for ASE, doesn't mean you know what you're doing. Some people are good test takers. I always like to see things on a car, not that ASE should go away. Let me make that straight before they come after me. It's good to have, but you really need to do it. You know, you can read every book, you can watch every video, and Weber State, I just took Justin up there to see John Kelly. It's an impressive program, and John does a very, very good job. He's one of the few people in the training end that I respect on, you know, hybrids and EVs. Does a great job.
He really does. I've been watching his videos for years. They're
Phenomenal.
fantastic. If you've not checked out the Weber Auto
Oh, you have to
YouTube
go
channel,
there.
you
You're
gotta
not
go
far.
check it out. Yeah, absolutely. Boy, you had something to
It's
say?
funny how you have to be licensed to be an electrician to work on high voltage, but you don't have to have a license to work on a high voltage EV automobile. And this is where you get to the safety thing. To have the license, that is ingrained in you before you get the ability to go out and do the job. And we're going to kind of have to figure this out for ourselves, and we don't want to figure this out the hard way.
Absolutely. Tony, you're a big trainer. What do you think?
Well, when I was growing up, you know, as a mechanic, you work in a gas station or you start out there, even though my dad had a shop, we couldn't get along. So I'm working in a gas station and you learn cause and effect. Well, if it's doing this, you do that. And you know, why? Well, don't worry about that right now. You know, it's always, this is what you do. And I think too many techs have gone that route where they need to understand why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, I hate to sound critical, but you know, I'm finally getting these shops to do voltage drop tests. I mean, that's such a basic thing with current running through the system. I'm a shooter. I think an electric car demands respect just like a weapon.
Absolutely.
And you have to always treat it like it can kill you. Always treat it like it's loaded. And I know that's a tough subject right now with everybody, but you know what? That's what's great about this country. But with electric cars, you have to respect the item. And you have to know why you're doing what you're doing and have the proper tools.
That's what I would say. Don't fear electricity, respect it.
Yes.
People work on high voltage every day. You don't hear about them getting killed. I mean, once in a while with a storm, but usually they know what they're doing. They've been trained. In our industry, Seth is right, there's no standard, but we have a peeing war going on. Do you want SAE to do it, make a standard? They do the J standards, or you want ASE to do it?
And are we
it's
actually
difficult.
going to follow them? Are we actually going to enforce the standard, if you will? So, you know, this comes back, Tony, to you. You brought up some really interesting points, and it segues into the next thought, which is what dynamic has to change in the auto repair industry? You know, because you've got the NASTF dynamic that has to change, right? So we've got access that we've got to be thinking about is going to change. We also have to have a technician and an owner mentality change. Where's the shift happen, and what's the biggest part of the shift you see?
The problem with humans is they don't change until there's pain, usually. And it's not going to happen to me. There's some weird thought there. It's not going to happen to me. So unfortunately, that may have to be it. But if we can stick together as business owners and trainers, and you guys are here. I mean, this is a big part of it, right? Where you want to understand that. And I think we're all evolving as a group, unlike, you know, when I was growing up and what it was like. You know, they threw me on a brand new car with a turbo when I'm 16. They're like, replace that. And I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Well, you'll figure it out. I didn't have a camera. I mean, I didn't have a week to wait for film to develop, you know, but I think we need to get groups like NASTF. Do I want government intervention on everything? No, but there is a balance there, as we all know that's been going on lately. There's a balance, and we need to join groups like NASTF. And I'm not saying SAE is a problem, but standards do help. We were just talking about standards with other items, and OBD2 was, to me, amazing.
Yeah.
And but that's about all I can say about it.
G?
I think the big thing is attitude. The attitude in the industry has to change. We've been, from trying to recruit technicians or get people into the industry, it's all about attitude. We're preaching to the choir here with all people that look for more information. But that is not the mass amount that we have out there. There's, a load of people in transportation, probably about 1 million people.
Yeah.
And how many people really go to training? I mean, some people, they've never been in a training class in a whole career. And they may be, 50, 60 years old. How the hell did they get by? How they get by? The parts stores will let them get by replacing crap and sending it back.
Yep, exactly.
Unfortunately, the people that need to hear this aren't here.
Of course.
That's the
We're our
unfortunate
own
side of
worst
it, right?
enemy.
Right.
We're our own worst enemy.
I agree. And the 90%, right? I would say there's 90% who aren't here, right? And they're the ones who we all hear about, we all see the cars from their shop, and we don't know how they're still in business.
And companies, years back with my partner, Ralph Birnbaum, we wrote the training material for Napa. And the only reason why Napa wanted us to write training material, their returns were crazy. And you can't say, Joe, you're an idiot. There's nothing wrong with that alternator, you moron. The guy's not gonna buy it if he's gonna go to CarQuest, right?
Yep.
So they had to slowly kind of try to educate them. But how many people really go through training? It's a small amount.
Yep. Go ahead.
Tony talks about what it takes to have a shop owner start doing something. One of the key things is we want to see it to be proven to be profitable. And so we'll sit on the sidelines till everyone else has proven it to be profitable, then we'll adopt it. So.
Yep, absolutely.
When they feel the pain, that's when they get into it.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a problem with men and egos is I learned from a driver I had back in '99 named Hurley Haywood, famous driver, and he pulled me aside. He finally goes, you're going to need to stop trying to do everything yourself, and you need to hire people that are smarter than you. And I think a lot of men they're intimidated by that. But you know what? That's the best thing you'll ever do is hire somebody that's brighter than you and smarter than you. And when that shop foreman or that shop owner does that, you'll move leaps and bounds.
You got to delegate.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I want to wrap up for everybody. Does anybody have any questions for the panel? I know this is an amazing panel that will answer your questions if you shoot them a message or an email